Hello, 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 and welcome back to the SEO Mastery Summit. This time I'm joined by Mushfiq. Welcome, Mushfiq.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mads.
So Mushfiq is the most world-famous website flipping guy, and he keeps flipping sites again and again and again. And yeah, you have done over 180 flips by now, is that right?
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. So you are about 170 some ahead of me. So yeah, definitely a while to go. But we do less flips. I'm hoping we make a little bit more money for each flip. But
Yeah,
definitely less flips. So
yeah.
that's great. So here in a couple of minutes we'll kick off, and you'll do an interesting presentation. Do you want to give the audience just a little bit of a teaser to what it's about?
Just my life cycle, essentially, what I follow step by step, essentially, and then 3 simple case studies, very quick with some data and some numbers, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Perfect. Okay, so I can see we have lots of people joining in already, and people are now also able to stream directly from our platform, which is great. So we can see it all directly. So I think we're just 1 minute prior here. So let me just enable you to share your screen here, Mushfiq. So if you want to go ahead and share.
Yes.
Then I will jump out of the picture here, so you can go ahead.
See that, Matt?
Yes, that's perfect.
Perfect.
Right, so you can go ahead, Mushfiq.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. So I'm Mushfiq. I do a website flipping essentially since 2008. I blog and have a newsletter over at the website Flip. So just a little bit about me. I have a traditional background in engineering, but I've been doing this probably longer than I've been doing engineering. So I have 180 website flips since 2008. I do about 10 to 15 website flips per year, and now I'm also building tool sets for investors, private equity companies, and whatnot to help them find deal flow. Now, what's a website flip? Essentially, just like real estate flipping, you buy a website that's underperforming, you improve it through SEO, CRO, everything just to improve the growth. You wait and then you sell, and that's what I've been doing for many years now. And recently we've been doing bigger and bigger deals. Early on, 2008 to 2012, we've been doing smaller deals, sub 5 figures. Now we're in the higher 6-figure range. So the outline, I'll be very quick, brief through all my slides just to have enough time for a Q&A, but I'll go through my flip life cycle very quickly, the different stages I follow. I'm a very data-driven person. I like to put together frameworks, so it just makes me more organized in my team. So you'll get to see some of that. And then 3 strategies. One is buying undervalued assets, which I talked about, buying and building on aged domains, and then my micro merger and acquisition strategy of redirecting aged domains to existing sites to boost up authority and SEO. And then some resources for further reading. So the life cycle, I like to follow a 5-stage life cycle. Now that's acquisition, stabilization, growth, optimization, exit, and each of them has a typical time frame. So acquisition is pretty straightforward when we're out there looking for deals, and I'm out there every single day looking for deals through Facebook groups, Flippa, Empire Flippers, Motion Invest, Investors Club, all the different brokers. And then now, since I have a newsletter, I have private deal flow coming in. So we're always analyzing, figuring out what our next acquisition will be. Once that's done, we get into the stabilization phase where we are spending 1 month, which is during this month, we're trying to understand the website, trying to understand who needs to be working on that, either VAs or writers, or developers, whatever those business needs. And during that time, we're also doing a lot of easy wins. Easy wins as in what can we quickly do to increase revenues. We do mostly affiliate marketing, display advertisements, lead generation, digital products. So we're always looking for ways to just tweak conversions or add new revenue streams immediately to 10x growth, essentially. And I'll show you an example where we 10x growth on one site. And then in the growth phase, we're looking at, what do we do in the month after the month 1 to like month 6. Essentially, we're adding a lot of content during this time. We're putting together a very dedicated writing team for that website. And we might be doing a lot of small tweaks. And we are very strong proponents of the 80-20 rule. So we focus on the top pages that get traffic to make sure they are fully optimized for revenue. And then it's the optimization. Because website averages, we need an average of 6 months earnings average, essentially, to list it on a brokerage and have the highest exit. During the optimization phase, we're doing little tweaks here and there, adding content, and really doing a lot of CRO during those time periods to increase the revenues from what all we've done through the acquisition to the growth phase. And then it's the exit, which is pretty straightforward, but there's nuances here. When do we exit, right? And the below figure, you'll see 2 strategies we like to follow. We have, the exit strategy 1 and the strategy 2. Now, everybody likes a website, buying a website when it's on an uptrend. So we do sell sites on an uptrend, even though it's a downside for us, because you'll take a 6-month average. So on an uptrend, you're going to have, somewhere in the middle. But it allows us to exit very quickly to the buyer's perspective, because they're happy that, the site's going to, I'm paying on a 6-month average, but the, recent months are much higher. I'm getting a good deal. We can close very quickly. Sometimes we sell sites within a week. Sometimes it takes months. And we've seen the ones where we're selling on an uptrend, they sell very quickly. So it just depends on what we think the website has potential, if we have another project, and we decide what to do. And there's a guide on that, more details, more examples on my site. So now strategy 1 that we really like to follow, and we've been doing a lot of these. This is our bread and butter. We buy undervalued assets. So just like in real estate, you're finding that house that's undervalued in a very nice neighborhood. Similar strategy. We're finding a website that's undervalued, and that could be a mix of different things. One is, we really look strongly on traffic and existing revenues. Traffic is money. Whether the previous owner optimized it for revenue or not, that's not our problem. We're looking at traffic, the niche, the pages that are getting the traffic, and seeing, is this traffic making the amount of revenue it should. So we're always looking at a ratio of revenue to traffic to see if there's any potential for growth. Another very common one is missed monetization. A lot of affiliate sites do not add display advertisements, so we like to, that's a very easy win for us. A lot of sites have potential for a digital product that could be created, but it's difficult to do, so a lot of sellers, a lot of creators don't do that. The 4th one is a lot of low competition keywords missing. We like to buy sites that have a lot of traffic, but then also have thousands of keywords available that they didn't target, and we can go in there and just go full on steam with new content being added. And then, of course, as buyers as well, and I talked about this in the previous site, we love to buy sites on an uptrend, because who wouldn't? You get the recent months' revenues going forward, but you bought on a trending 6-month average. So these are essentially what we like to look for. And as a case study, we bought a site, and we primarily look on Flippa. And Flippa, the main reason for that is Flippa is like the eBay of the world. People who want to sell a business mostly will always go to Flippa first. Savvy sellers like to use more seasoned platforms like Empire Flippers, FE International, Quiet Light, brokerage. But Flippa is for the hobby blogger, right? And that's what we're looking for. Sites that were built by hobbyists. They were put up on Flippa because maybe they just got bored, or they don't know what to do next. And so that's where we are there constantly looking for those kind of sites. So one example, we bought an outdoor site, a 10-year-old outdoor site, DR51. So very powerful domain. It was earning only $300, but getting 75,000 page views per month consistently. Now that ratio doesn't make sense. Anybody in the game long enough knows that that site should be making 10 times that amount. So we purchased at a 75x multiple. Now the average multiple in the industry is 35 to 40 at this very stage. And we've overpaid because that's what the seller wanted. And we're willing to overpay. So our acquisition criteria is under 50K. I don't care about the valuation. I'm willing to overpay because the deal is there, as in we know it's only earning 300, but I know internally within like my team, the easy wins available on the site allow us within a month to take the site to 3,000, 5,000, for example. So we're willing to overpay just to get the deal done. Because one of the things with Flippa is that it's an auction-based system, and you don't want as a buyer to go through an auction because it attracts a lot of bidders, causes, if you ever participate in auctions, it just, last minute bidding can really get the site up. And there's always savvy buyers like me out there, right? So I'm not the only one. So anyways, this site didn't have any CRO. It didn't have display ads. It had no active SEO done. So a lot of the articles, titles, on-page SEO was very, very weak. So it was a very good opportunity. So the below figure is we still own this site in our portfolio. And so within a month, we got it to about $2,750 from 300. It peaks in the summer about 8,000 and averages about 4,000. And we spend less than an hour. We have an operator on this site right now. We pay him a fixed salary to manage the site day to day, and we have bonus structures in place. So we're pretty much hands off, and we'll probably hold this for another 6 months to a year and potentially think about selling. So that's one example. Now, another strategy we love to do is buy sites or build sites on an age domain. Now, age domains are, they're getting a lot of chatter recently, but they're very, very powerful tools if you know what you're doing, what you're looking for. And the reason I like to use them is because you get domains that have unobtainable backlinks, right? If I am comparing a niche site, a website that I'm building, and I look at backlinks that I really, really want, niche relevant, most likely it will take me years to get those, or potentially I will never get those. So you can look at an age domain that has those unobtainable backlinks and start from there. Now, it's a good head start out of the potential Google sandbox, if that exists or not, but it does give you a boost. And so the strategies that we like to follow, we like to recreate the site. So if we're buying just the age domain, maybe from auctions, our go-to market is Otis Global. We buy a lot of domains from there. Now we recreate the site with a topical relevancy. So if we want to enter a niche, we look for a domain in that niche that has the previous content on that site used to be related, has really niche relevant backlinks and a good history. We recreate the site on that domain. We also do 301 redirects, and I'll show you some examples strategically to our existing sites. And then sometimes, you set up the site, you analyze and you adapt. Sometimes age domains don't always work. Sometimes they work very well. Sometimes they work average, right? But you just set it up, analyze, and adapt your strategy accordingly. It's always a feedback loop in SEO. So one case study, we bought a site built on an age domain that was, the domain was since 2010. The previous owners, the original owners were hobbyists, let's say, and they let it expire. Some other person picked it up and started, and it's in the dating niche and relationship niche, and they put a lot of content on there, and it was earning about $800 a month. We purchased for $32,000, so this is more of a reasonable multiple. Now, again, this individual is, I would say, more savvy than the original owners because they understood what an age domain is. They were able to get content on there and start monetizing it, but they wanted to focus on other businesses, and therefore they sold it to us. And then after 3 months, we were able to get it to 6,000. Last month, it peaked at 11,000, and we still have it in our portfolio. So this was a very successful age domain that we bought. And actually, this one is one we're probably going to keep for the long haul in our portfolio. Now, on this one, we like to build things, get them to a certain level. And then as you'll see, we like to get operators on board to manage that. So this one also has an operator where we've incentivized the individual at a fixed salary and then target bonuses. So if he hits 12K in the next month, he'll get a sizable bonus, and then we reevaluate the next milestone and go from there. So this one is very very simple to manage. It's just a pure content site with affiliates. We've done a lot of custom negotiations with the affiliates to get higher cost, essentially the affiliate revenue, and a lot of interesting things there that we've done. But yeah, very easy to manage, and it only has about 400 or 500 articles, and it gets only 30,000 visitors a month, but makes about 11K. So this one was a good age domain case study. Now, this one is something redirecting age domains to niche sites or authority sites. I've been doing this for a few years now. So acquiring topically relevant age domains and redirecting them to existing sites that we own. You can think about this as micro mergers and acquisitions. And we like to mimic our SEO strategies just like the real world. Mergers and acquisitions is a very common thing in the real world, where businesses acquire other businesses, wrap them up, and take over the market, and also the website itself, right? And we're just doing this at a very micro level, right? Now the benefits of this, when you do an age domain redirect, theoretically your domain backlinks pass through to your niche site, whether one-to-one or not, that's a different conversation, but they do pass through. And if you do this right, your traffic will increase. Hopefully, your authority will increase, and your goal is to get more leads essentially out of your site. So, one example, and I like to share my websites. I'm not scared to do that. I know a lot of people are. I do keep some of my sites private, and some of them I am very open and do case studies on. So we bought goodglow.co. This is an acne site, again built by a hobby blogger. It was a cheap acquisition for us, about $10,000, but it had a digital product the previous owner put together. It was getting good traffic in a health niche, and the original owner actually had this problem of acne, and they were very passionate and they wrote all the content. So this is the type of site we like to buy. Now, it didn't have very good authority, and it's hard to get authority in the health niche. So we bought acneresource.org from GoDaddy auctions for about $1,000 and did the redirect. In the bottom right corner, you can see our domain rating, which on Ahrefs increasing, and our traffic is slowly increasing. It's a tough niche, so it'll take more time. Now on the left is the strategy we like to follow. So it's a micro and acquisition strategy where we have a press release page on our site. We don't like to do redirects to our homepage directly unless it's so relevant. This one was somewhat relevant, and so we took the Acne Resource homepage and put it to a press release page on our Good Glow site, and then all the other pages like Acne Resource had a page about, does chocolate cause acne? And we had the same article on our site, does chocolate cause acne? And therefore we did a one-to-one redirect on that because it's very, very relevant. And so if it's not relevant, we like to use a buffer page, essentially a press release page, where on the press release page, we like to put relevant links. So we pass the link juice through to the site. So it just protects us in case there's any, if the domain was penalized in any way, so we can know that. Another example, so the website flip.com is a big project of mine. It's a dedicated blog, newsletter, and tools that we're building for website flippers. And mostly they're tools that I use on a day-to-day, but we make it public for everybody to use as well. Now, the website flip is only a 10-month-old domain. We started in December last year. And so how do we get authority in this niche, right? I personally blog on this site. I build backlinks. I build relationships. But, how do we accelerate growth? And one way we've been doing that is buying up smaller competitors. You can try to beat your competitors, or you can buy them up because maybe their site is neglected. So one, for example, flipfilter.com is a very old, 11-year-old website. It's actually a SaaS tool which used to bring in Flippa deals. It would bring in all the Flippa deals and do further analysis on them. And this was a very, very strategic acquisition for us. And I've been using Flip Filter since the early days, and I'm a big fan of it. I know the owner, and I essentially said, look, I'm building tool sets here similar to what you're doing. You haven't, been working on Flip Filter for a while, and it's been neglected. I love the backlink profile, and I'm just gonna, redirect it to my site strategically. And so this site, Flip Filter, had links from Empire Flippers, FE International, Entrepreneur, NBC, links I can't really just go out and pay somebody to build on in typical, backlink building, just by guest posts or something. I could, with goodwill over time, build a relationship and get those links. But, that's, in my opinion, there's better ways to go about that. And I still do, strategic partnerships to build links, but this is just a way to acquire a competitor, get them out of the SERPs, and then, put that traffic to my site and also the backlinks. So we bought it, I think in mid-July, and then merged it in late July. And so, after that, you can see our organic traffic has actually, even though we're not getting millions of visitors, this is a very tough niche. We're trying to rank for keywords like website brokers, because we are also a brokerage. So, that's a service we provide. We're trying to rank for website valuations, due diligence framework. So these are very high value keywords where we have direct products for. So, the traffic isn't crazy, but you can see, we're increasing day over day. So this was a very strategic one for us. We bought more, for example, flipwebsites.com. I don't have a case study here for that. Again, a very similar one. And this was owned by the Chris Yates from Rhodium Weekend, if you're familiar with that group. So again, a strategic purchase for us there as well. So that's it for my talk. I want to have enough time for Q&A, but there's a lot of resources. On my newsletter, I analyze 3 to 5 sites for sale per week. So since we're a broker, we analyze sites, due diligence on them, and then send them out to our list so people can buy them directly. On that newsletter, we also review age domains, and Otis is our go-to for that. We also review sites from Flippa, Empire Flippers, and all the other brokerages. Deal Feed is a tool that we built, brings all websites for sale into one tool so that you can analyze all of them in one place without monitoring all the different brokerages, so saves investors a ton of time. And then there's a lot of frameworks that I've built and written for about buying websites. So that's it. Thank you so much. Open to questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Did you mention Easywin as well?
Say that again, sorry?
Should we mention Easywin as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Easywins Io, and maybe I can just open it up. So Easywins.io is a product that I created. Essentially, one of the issues we had in the industry, in my opinion, is there's a lot of courses to get beginners to building websites, how to monetize, how to do keyword research. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of brokers out there that are educating the population on how to value your website, how to sell it, how to position it. But in the middle, if you have people who already know how to build a site and then have maybe sold one or two, what's in the middle of strategies that you can quickly implement on your site, maybe after you bought a site or you have an existing site? What are the easy win strategies that you can implement such that you can 10x growth? So this is a database we built, we use internally, our operators use it. It's essentially a checklist you kind of go through and try to apply as many that are relevant as possible, and essentially the goal is to increase your traffic or your revenues. So that's a tool that is available. Essentially, you can apply these tactics to your site, and hopefully your site grows.
Perfect. And yeah, I thought it was good to mention because it's something me and my team have been using as well. So it's been super valuable. So again, thanks for sharing this tool. So we've had a fair few questions so far. Mm-hmm. The first one is. So that's a guy saying, I've heard that if you redirect an age domain to your existing site, you should make sure that it have less domain rating than the site you're directing it to.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
So all caveat to everything, I am not an crazy age domain expert. So please just do your own research, and everything here is testing, right? I believe, yes, that could potentially be an issue, even although we did age domain redirects that were DR 2030 to our new site, the website Flip, which was DR 5, and we have not had issues. Again, there's probably cases where it does, but I think it really comes down to niche relevance, in my opinion, topical relevancy. So that's one example. So I don't have other examples where I was penalized, so I'll stop there.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'd say it probably also very, very important exactly where you direct it to, right?
Yeah.
So here's another guy saying, I have currently 2 sites in a similar niche. They're both making about 2K each. I'm considering merging them, but what do you guys think? I was thinking that having 2 spaces in the SERPs were better than 1.
Yeah. I've come across this question where I personally think don't ever break something, because if it's working good, right? You have 2 sites making 2K a month. If you do a redirect, if you don't do it right, you lose everything. So I like to be diversified. And 2 SERP positions are better than 1, definitely. And also 2 websites, when you go to sell, get you a higher multiple than just 1 website. And this has been proven through Empire Flippers and other brokerages. They'll give you a higher multiple because from a buyer's perspective, you get 2 sites. So if one gets hit, there's always another one in a portfolio. So just keep them separate. Do strategic linking between them if you see that being a strategy. And it's easier to hire a team to manage both of those sites to add more content. You do keyword research once, and then you can apply that keyword research to 2 sites. So I think there's better cases of just keeping them separate.
Excellent. And just a big shout out to the audience as well. So again, you can ask more questions in the questions and answer session, both on the platform and also here in the live chat. So you're welcome to ask anywhere. So yeah, just one quick comment from me on that. What I would say though is I do see Google generally loving authority. All right. So I would say we have had a few cases where we have merged sites. Maybe not exactly 2K and 2K, but we've merged 2 sites, and after merging, they ended up making a lot more at a total than they used to do individually, right? And I'm pretty sure that's, again, SEO is about the top 3 spots, right? And if you get a bunch of additional authority by merging 2 sites that both have some authority, my experience is definitely you can often get more out of it, right? So yeah, it totally depends what you're trying to achieve. It depends what your sort of objective is and so on. The other thing I would say is it's probably easier to manage 1 site than managing 2 sites. But again, as Mushfiq alluded to, definitely also some risk with doing it. So again, make sure you know what you're doing before you do anything in that regard. Girl here, Maria, asking what do you typically pay for a good age domain? I've seen a lot, but many of them are very expensive. So what is sort of a good starting level?
Oh yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so for Acne Resource, we paid 1,000. So that's one number. For Flip Filter, we pay 7,500. For Flip Websites, we paid 1,500. So it's all over the place, right? And it's not just there's marketplaces where they have calculations, their formulas and whatnot. But if you're buying direct from GoDaddy auctions or whatnot, it's not always a function of what's the DR of the site or the age of the site. It's so it's this market of, I think, age domains doesn't have a standard. I would look at it from the perspective a little differently, is what benefits, or essentially analyze the backlinks on that site, make a short list of them on that domain, make a short list of them and put a value on those backlinks for your time and effort to get them. For example, a backlink from entrepreneur, I'm just going to say a number out there, but I value that at $1,500 to $1,000, let's say, right? If I was to somehow take my time building a relationship with a journalist over there and try to get that backlink, it's going to probably take, that much effort. So I break down the backlink profile, the referring domain profile, and put a value to it. And then, that's how I value that site, that domain. And then, it's an auction or you're buying it from somebody else. So you just negotiate on the price. Unfortunately, there's not a standard for this.
Okay. Next one is expired domains as good as age domains, or what's your view?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I don't differentiate. And again, I'm not an expert, right? There's better people out there. But I don't care if expired age, it doesn't matter to me. I'm looking at the niche relevancy, topic relevancy, and the backlink profile. One of our biggest sites that I just talked about in the dating niche, that was an expired domain. That one is making 11K. So I think it matters more of what's the backlink profile and what are you going to do with that domain post acquisition.
Cool, that makes sense. This one, what's the best platform? Do you always use GoDaddy auctions, or is there better auctions?
Yeah, so 3 ways. There's now a lot of age domains being sold through Facebook. A lot of people are selling them, so that's one way to get a good deal. GoDaddy has always been, the go-to GoDaddy auctions, but you have to sift through hundreds of thousands of domains at any given time. I don't know the number, but a lot. So that can be time-consuming. But yeah, I use Otis a lot. I go on there, find something. The pricing is going to be a little bit higher than if you go to direct, but they do a lot of the vetting, so it saves a lot of time. And I don't look at it from if I am the cost of the domain can always be something to some people get afraid of that, but because I'm so confident in what I can do, I know that the long-term value of that asset is much higher. So I don't really care if the domain is 3K, 5K. If I know that I want to enter that niche, I'm willing to pay that premium up front because I know the future value is 6 figures or higher. So
cool. And we have David asking a question here saying, great talk, Mushfiq. Do you have any examples where website flip didn't go well? And what red flags do you look for to avoid bad outcomes?
Yeah, so we have there's 2 questions there. So the second is what red flags. In our due diligence, we look at everything from brandability of the domain, the history of the website, backlink profile. Are there any toxic links, PBN links? We stay away from anything PBNs. Essentially, what's the traffic trend look like? Is it on a downtrend? Why is it on a downtrend? Did it get hit by a manual penalty or an algorithmic penalty? So we go through that whole process for each website that we buy. And I have a due diligence framework that you can follow through. It's 46 questions essentially that you can think about and answer that we go through mentally. And sometimes, it takes data from Ahrefs, Google Analytics to get that information. And ones that didn't go well. So in the early days, and recently, the past 2 years, I would say, luckily, we have not had an issue with a site that didn't go well. And the reason for that is because we buy smart, right? We're buying sites that are distressed, and we were willing to wait to find that unicorn site. And when I say distressed, is that I'm buying a site that's getting 100,000 page views, that's making $300. So even if I get hit by a Google update, which that site in question has been hit, by the December 2020 update, but we recouped our revenues. We also are earning 3 to 4K a month still, but we bought it at $23,000 or something. We've already recouped our money. So when we're buying smart, I actually don't even care if there's a Google update because I know that I can 10x the growth and then stabilize it, and I'm still getting a very, very good ROI. So that's one. Early on in the day, maybe 2016, 17, we did buy sites with PBNs. And one example is we bought a site with a PBN as a trial. We bought it, and within I believe a month, their whole network was hit. That was about 250 sites. I reached out to the seller like, hey, what happened? He sent me a disavow file of 250 domains approximately to disavow. So this guy had a huge PBN portfolio, and that site never recovered. So since then, we have just stayed away for PBN. So that's one. Now, just to wrap that up, a failure in our eyes is we have never been hit by a manual penalty. We've been hit by algorithmic penalties. A failure in our eyes is when we're dumping a ton of money into a site in terms of content and backlinks, and we're just not getting that traction. So for this outdoor site that we bought, we were adding about 50 to 100 articles a month for the first 3 to 6 months after we got hit by the algorithmic penalty, thinking that, hey, more content, we can, get this back up. And it was not getting back up. So since then, we've cut down to about 5 articles a month. And in our books, that is a failure because we weren't able to get that hockey stick growth, which we're usually able to achieve. Even though it's a very good asset, making $4,000 a month, we're just not able to get the traffic levels back up. So in my book, that is a failure, even though for others, that's not a failure.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. I had a question for Rose here. If you have poor sites linking to you, what do you do about it?
Yeah, good question. Ignore it. Google ignores it. So you don't need to actively disavow anything these days. Even though we do a 1 year, every single year we do an annual audit to figure out if there's any backlinks that we should disavow. Now, this is a proactive thing. You don't need to do it. That's what Google has said. But if there's some obvious links that really shouldn't be on your backlink profile, you can disavow them.
Yeah. And I would say, we use a similar approach, right? Like, particularly if sometimes you have competitors that actually use some decent links or PBNs or something to really skew your anchor text or, send you casino anchors or some porn anchors or something. And you might want to get rid of those, right? But yeah, generally, nowadays it's very, very rare that we would use disavow, to be honest. So.
Right. Yes.
Right, here's another interesting question. So when you're looking at Flipper, would you rather buy a site with content but no links, or a site with great links and no content?
The second one. Great links, no content.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because, again, you have a content process you're comfortable with and so on. And
yeah. To add to that, obviously everybody wants a site with content and links, but that's usually not the case. So I've always seen it being those two spectrum. But usually 90% of sites, let's say, is going to have good content on Flippa. And you're sifting through hundreds of deals to find that one, right? And very minimal links because, again, they're built by hobby people and they put a lot of content, but they don't have the outreach efforts. They're getting things organically. So you're going to find more sites like that. And very few sites, because if a site doesn't have content, it's hard to get backlinks. So that's actually, a red flag is that low amount of content, low quality content, and a lot of backlinks. That's actually could be an age domain that they're repurposing and recreating, but the content there's not enough or it's very low quality.
Yeah. So one thing we have done that have probably got us some of our best deals is actually go out and search for just websites and blogs. Like if you go out and Google like best garden blogs or guest sewing blogs or something, and find lists that are relatively old, so maybe from 2016 or 2018, you can sometimes find lists of hundreds of blogs. And what we've ended up seeing was that some of these have sometimes not been updated for 1 or 2 years. Yeah. And we have actually been able to go contact the original owners and basically made some deals for buying some crazy sites for maybe $1,000 or something. Yeah. Yeah. Many of them, they don't have good SEO, so you often need to go in and work with titles and stuff like that. But you can make some very, very solid deals and get a lot out of those kind of deals. So that's also a good way. It takes a lot more time. What I love about a place like Otis is the fact that the sites are there. They're generally good and you can just get moving, right? But obviously, if you have more time yourself, somewhere like Flipper and even going searching for blogs and so on can get you some good deals, particularly if you're just starting out, right?
Yeah, I think to add to that, the difference there is that you're getting a bulk amount of content at wholesale. you're paying 1,000, but that site could have 100 articles that the previous owner wrote over a long period of time. You can take all that content and do a merge, essentially figure out what can go on your site, and then perform the redirect. I love that benefit on buying aged niche sites that are not performing. And then Otis, you're not getting the content, you're just getting the domain. So that's the two differences there.
Yeah. So one more from Charles here. What is your exit strategy when it comes to website flipping? What is the tipping point to sell one from the portfolio?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a personality thing here. I love growth. I don't like stable. And that's maybe because it's just the time of my life where I am right now, where I'm liking that. But some people love that dividend paying website. So once I have kind of figured out that, hey, this is the max I can take this website, it has done its exponential or linear growth. The average last 6-month average makes sense to me and then multiplied by 35 to 40x. That amount makes sense to justify my efforts, and I can reasonably sell this within a short period of time. I honestly make a decision to sell the site, so that I can take that and then reinvest in other projects that get me excited. That's one. And then the other is, there are a few niches, websites that we do keep, and these days are very old sites, so 10, 15-year-old websites. We've had it in our portfolio for a year or 2 years that we bought, and these are consistently generating revenues, even though it's flat, but it's taking very minimal amount of our time. So those are the sites we like to potentially keep, and we have 2 of those in our portfolio, and one of them we talked about today in the dating niche. So it really depends on the website, the age of the website, the longevity of the niche, versus if I can just exit this really quickly and then reinvest that money into building better assets.
Cool. And another question from Rose here. If you have a site with average content, is it better to fix up the current content or add new content first?
So we do both simultaneously. So on our outdoor site that we bought, we're adding 50 to 100 articles, but simultaneously we're updating articles on the existing site as well. So it's we're going full on right there, updating content, republishing that content, updating the titles, updating the on page, adding more content, and then interlinking that content to our new articles and vice versa. So we're doing everything at once. We don't separate that.
Yeah, and I would say you're 80-20 as well. Particularly focus out definitely if you have existing content that are getting a lot of traffic. I would definitely start with those, right? So if you have pages, most websites is 80-20, right? So basically 80% of the traffic goes to 20% of the site. So start with the sites that are getting a ton of traffic, right? And focus on those first. But yeah, agree. Okay, so many 3 different places coming questions in. So next question here. When doing a website flip or when selling a site, what's the typical multiple you get?
Yeah, so I analyze the market daily. Empire Flippers is going to get you the best multiple, seller's perspective. They're in the upper 40s to 50x per month, average per month. And they also have a 15% fee, so take that into consideration. The average right now, after fees and whatnot, I think is about 35x. So just use that as a metric, 35 to 40x. And so that's what you can expect from brokerages like Investors Club, Motion Invest, and private deals. If you find a buyer direct, you're going to save on fees. So a lot of people miss out that they target the brokerages or high multiples and forget that there's a bunch of money in the fees that essentially reduce your effective take home multiple essentially. So yeah, so 50x on the Empire Flippers, but really the market average is about 35 to 40.
Yeah, and so that's the next question is just that. So do you normally prefer private deals or do you normally use brokers?
I prefer private deals. I built relationships with people that they buy sites from me. I know them. I can close within a week on some instances. Whereas if you go through a broker, it can take weeks to find somebody, but then a month for the full transfer and verification of revenue and that whole process. So always go direct, but use tools like escrow.com to protect yourself, legal agreements and all of that.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so next question here. Sorry. Bunch of people saying thank you, great talk. Thanks for sharing the knowledge. There's a question here. So what is your content process and what do you typically focus on? Info content or money pages?
Primarily info. So a ratio of 70% info to 30% commercial. And that's not any science-backed ratio. It's just what we do. And we like to hire dedicated writers per site and niche experts. We primarily hire from Upwork, and we don't like to pay per cent. Essentially, the industry way to do things is pay the writer, X cents per word. I think that's actually a disinterest to every party, because as a non-expert of that topic, how do I know how many words you should write? I mean, I can use third-party tools, but how do I validate that that's the right amount that you should write? And then, how do I know that that writer is being honest and writing, not adding fluff content? So we like to just hire somebody and say, hey, this is a long-term project. You'll be with us for a long period of time. We'll give you so much work that you don't need to find other freelancing work. But our only caveat here is that we like to pay a fixed fee per article. On average, you'll write about 2,000 words, and site dependent, per article. Some will be less, some will be more, but over time it'll average out and you'll get a lot of work. And a lot of freelancers are happy with that structure. They don't have to worry about if they hit the target word count. They don't have to go through that entire process. Neither do we. So right now, once we've trained up writers, we actually don't even give them outlines. Since they're niche experts, they put together the outlines and figure out what topic should be covered. We then go back and just do on page, add a few sections if they're missing, add keywords where needed, post process. So we like to give the full creativity to the writer, and I've seen that actually gets the best content produced for that site.
Excellent. And that actually answered another question: is where do you find content writers? So that's answered with that. That's another one on content here. What do you find is the best way to optimize content? Do you use Surfer SEO?
Good question. So we don't. In my life cycle, right, of a website, we're not always holding a site long enough where Surfer and those kind of optimization tools comes into play, because when we're in the 1 year after buying a site, we like to put the content up there. Content takes time to rank, right? Maybe 3 to 6 months, let's say, and to get its final position. Then is when you do Surfer SEO optimization or other tools like that. So we, for the sites that we keep in our portfolio, we do Surfer SEO and those kind of tools. But most of our sites, since we're flipping after a year, we actually don't even do that process. So we're putting out content, letting it rank, and we're leaving a lot of easy wins on the table, right, for the buyer, because they can take that and then, optimize it. But we personally don't really have that process in our life cycle.
Cool. So a lot more thanks from Andy Road, Mark asking what tools you use to manage your SEO projects.
So we use Trello to manage our team. I guess that's what we're asking. Manage team, manage different tasks. We use Ahrefs, obviously, for due diligence and analysis on page and all of the other metrics. And obviously Google Analytics, Google Search Console. It's that simple.
Yep, perfect. And Oleg asking, how many articles per month do your writers produce?
Yeah, good question. Depends on the site. For example, on our dating site, we're publishing like 5 articles a month, so nothing. On our outdoor site, it was 50 to 100. Now it's down to 10. Again, it goes up and it goes down, right?
What about from a writer perspective, like one writer, how much do they typically do?
Yeah, I would say one writer is writing about 5 to 10 articles per week if they can. 5 articles per week. Yeah.
Right.
But 5 to 10,000 words a week is pretty doable.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And next one, we have a bunch of questions here. So, what's your favorite link building strategy?
Yeah. So this is something I get a lot. Since we're buying sites and we're buying sites based on the revenue ratio, essentially, right? And a lot of easy wins. We actually don't build any links for the first year, at least knowingly. And because we don't need to, right? We're taking the goodwill of the site from the previous owner that had the links or whatever, and then we apply the easy wins to increase the growth. If we keep a site for more than a year, so in our portfolio, we do strategic links. We don't do guest posts. Let me clarify. We do guest posts. We don't use networks, essentially, different guest post networks or link building services. We do it ourselves, and we do it very strategically. We find a site we really want to build a relationship with, and we reach out and see what needs to be done for that to happen. Yeah, success rate is low, but again, we have recouped our ROI, and we're really trying to get the very quality links that will really move the needle. We're not trying to, essentially power the domain with links so that we get that growth. We've already had that growth. We're trying to build it even further and essentially build a moat around us so that our competitors can't just come and beat us. So our strategy is very strategic, not building very low quality guest post niche edit links to just get the authority up.
Yep, that makes sense. And here's another question. Do you ever sell guest posts on your site to make money?
No, never.
Okay. And David, when you buy a site, do you add any other traffic channels beside SEO?
Social media has always been a hit and miss with us. We've tried, we're just not good at it, so we don't focus on it. Email lists, we do, depends on the niche, depends on the site. We do build out an email list and build out a campaign that gets sent up.
Cool. I would say for us as well, we tried a lot of social media, and it's been very difficult to get a lot of consistent success with it, right? And I think it's also just it's so hard to measure the impact of your investments, which is difficult. Right. So Oleg is asking, is 10 related strategic links gonna be better than 50 typical guest posts?
Yeah, that's yes, definitely.
Yeah. Rose, what sort of price do you pay or exchange agreement do you use for posting on other sites?
I didn't get that.
No, so I think that's for links, I guess, but you just said you're not really buying links, so
no. I mean, we're if we have to pay for a link that's strategic, we're willing to pay. And it's whatever they say, right? Because we strategically find it. We paid $500 to $1,000 for a strategic link. I mean, that's going to move the needle.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, she's asking, do you have any exchange agreement? No, again, like, no.
No. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. So any more questions here? Do you often totally change the content on an existing page? So I assume if you're buying a new site, right, and you're looking at the content, do you just basically improve grammar and so on, or do you sometimes totally revamp the content on a page?
Yeah, we totally revamp. So we do a content audit when we buy a site to figure out what needs to be done in terms of what articles need to be deleted, what need to be merged, and what needs to be improved. And then, we sometimes rewrite the full article and then repost it, republish it.
What's your strategy for new content? So do you build out a content map, or how do you determine what articles to write next?
Yeah, it starts with keyword research. We're using Ahrefs, other tools to find the keywords, and then putting together titles and then submitting it. So I think the second stage to that is, first we like to just get a lot of new content on the site. Maybe they don't have like a perfect silo structure, let's say, we're just putting content. Later on, we figure out after, a few months, we can kind of see what got traction, which maybe typical clusters or whatnot got traction, and we double down on that over time.
Yeah, that's similar to what we typically do, right? So we'll often, when we buy an existing site, we maybe put 3 different articles on it in 3 different areas, and just seeing which one kind of shoots up very quickly, and then we typically build a whole cluster around that.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and yeah, one more here. So when you say strategic links, what do you mean with that?
Niche relevant links. Right. That's probably better. Yeah.
And do you typically buy sites in the same niche, or do you buy sites in all kinds of niches?
We are niche agnostic, so we don't really care. It's always about the numbers and the potential. But if we do find, for example, we have bought some mini sites within the outdoor niche to help our main site grow, the outdoor site. So yeah, we do, and we like to leverage the same writers. So there's a lot of benefits of doing that. But just if you're gonna do that, just make sure your niche has, your niche has longevity, because you're investing in multiple assets. So yeah, we short answer is yes, we do.
Okay, great. And that's one saying, why Trello? Do you find that better than tools like ClickUp?
We've just been using it for a long time. It's whatever works. They're all the same.
Yeah, so I would say the same thing. When it comes to project management tools, honestly, they mostly do the same. I've seen ClickUp and it seems solid, but I would say most project management tools do very similar stuff. The key thing is about using it. Yeah. I work with lots and lots of clients in the SEO world where, it's kind of like half the team is using the tool, half the team isn't. And, that's definitely the killer. So whatever tool you do use, make sure that everyone is using it consistently. That's definitely the biggest win around that.
Yeah.
Any other SEO tools you use? So you've mentioned Trello, you've mentioned Ahrefs. Any other tools that you find relevant?
No. Simple.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put definitely one more in there. So we probably have 1 or 2 others. So we're using the new WriterSend. That is super interesting. So that can both do lots of good keyword clustering and so on, which is super useful. We like that when we analyze a lot of content. They also have a super cool feature for finding easy keyword. Basically, we're doing all entitled searches. And I would say besides that, we have used Surfer. We're not using it so much anymore. But yeah, reality is you don't need a lot of tools. So as you said, Mushfiq, you can get a lot of stuff out of even Search Console. I think a lot of people is not using analytics and Search Console enough. And often the data in those are actually better than tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush and so on, right? So definitely a lot to be said for that as well. Right. Any tips for negotiating better affiliate deals with your affiliate programs?
Yeah, and we've done a few of those. For example, when we bought our dating site, one of our payouts was $40, and that was through a network called Max Bounty, if you're familiar with that. And we went direct to the brand because they had a direct affiliate program, and essentially negotiated up to 60. So, the way we did that is, if you're through a network, right, the brand is paying an amount to that network, maybe $5 to $10. of that. So it's always good. You can go direct. So that's an easy way if they have a direct program. If they don't, what wins in this game is traffic and the promise of traffic. So we have seen that, if you negotiate, let's say January, you get your, amount up, and then 6 months later, your traffic went up, you can go back and negotiate again that, hey, we're sending you more sales, give us this number, whatever that may be. The other is that every single time I have talked to a affiliate manager direct at the brands or the networks, they always ask, can we get more traffic from you? How can we get more traffic from you? And you can just tell them, yeah, we're adding a lot of content, our traffic is increasing, definitely you'll get more. And then they'll give you a little boost there as well, because they're kind of anticipating that growth. So it's all about traffic conversions at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what I would say, it's probably one of our biggest hacks from buying sites. Like literally when we buy sites, the first thing we do is basically reach out to all the existing affiliate programs, both to build a relationship with the affiliate manager if we can, obviously if it's not Amazon, but reach out, build a relationship with the affiliate manager and just ask them, like, what does it take? One, can we get a boost right now? And what level of sales would we need to get another boost? Because we know that's going to totally increase the multiple significantly. And sometimes even just calling up people, like sometimes they'll add 20-30% to your commission just from a phone call, just because no one does it, right? Like most people just take the basic commissions on face value and they don't really consider actually looking for anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting question. So with AI content tools flooding the market and people adding 20 articles a day, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I don't use AI content tools, so that's that. What's my opinion? I've been around, I think, long enough. Back in the day, it was article spinners, if you're familiar with that. Now I think it's AI content. I personally don't think they'll last with the way they're being used. Think about this. Google is the biggest AI platform in the world, and you're trying to game it with AI content. Come on. So that's one. The other is that you can use AI content to supplement and help your content strategy. For example, a writer can be given that so that they can just get some ideas going, so that the writer block, that can be stopped. They can get a lot of ideas and then input and then add more content, customize that content. We have seen the AI content output puts out a lot of data and things that don't make sense. So you have to go through an editorial process anyway. So it can be a supplement. It shouldn't be a replacement.
Totally agree. Right, Mushfiq, I think we have come to the end of the hour. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for answering all the questions and so on. There was lots of good fun here, and lots of comments for the audience. So that's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and again, I highly recommend people to check out Easywins Io. Both me and my team loves it, and a good way to get some quick wins. So
thanks, Matt. Thank you so much.